Do you think that today it is even like necessary to get into some sort of like content creation if you want to be a musician or have a career as a producer?
That little mini phrase, stand out, is the difficulty now. It's very crowded in everything, but it is a necessity. It's a tough business at the moment for people starting out because you are competing with people that understand marketing more than they understand the job they're doing. It's all back to, it's not about how big the numbers are, it's all about the real engagement and whether you're actually talking to people.
And it's not like these little sprints here and there, it's like a consistent marathon of putting the things out, getting better over time, and getting the feedback from the people who actually listen to you.
This is the Self-Recording Band Podcast, the show where we help you make exciting records on your own, wherever you are, DIY style. Let's go. Your songs are ready to be released, all recorded, mixed, mastered, done, finished. And now what, right? Or maybe you're working with other artists, with other producers, other people in general. You're starting your career as a music producer, mixing engineer, or you do it as a side hustle kind of thing. And you're wondering, how do I now get the word out? What can I do to let people know about my music, my work as a producer, and all of that? So whether you are a self-recording artist or a producer working with others, this episode might help you with that, because one of the things you can do, and I think everyone at some point should consider doing it, is one thing you can do is called content marketing. And content marketing can mean social media, it can mean a podcast, it can mean a YouTube channel, it can mean any kind of free, valuable content that you put out in the world that has the potential to attract an audience that will then eventually start, to listen to your music or, work with you as a producer. And so today, I think everyone is not just a musician, they're also content creators to a degree. And of course, the music is going to be the number one thing, and your work as a producer is going to be the number one thing. But in a way, it just has become part of what we're doing, is that we're offering value in many different ways. And I think if you don't do any form of content marketing, you're missing out on a very powerful and also very fulfilling thing that you can do. And it's a long game. It's not something that just happens overnight. It takes time to build an audience. But if you do it well, you can build an audience of very, very loyal listeners, watchers, consumers of your content, whatever. And if you do it well and you provide real value, not just fluffy stuff that nobody cares about, but if you provide real value, it can really be a great way to build an audience who will then you can then turn into fans or clients if you're working with other people. Anyway, so there are only a couple of things you can do anyways, right? You can pay for ads. You can reach out to people by sending countless messages. You can do content marketing, like I just said, or you can work with, partners, affiliates, whatever, and get referrals. These are really the only 4 ways that you can build any kind of business. And if you're a musician who's ambitious, or a band who really wants to build a fan base, it is kind of a business if you look at it, right? I think you should look at it like that, I think. And this podcast, by the way, if you've been a long-time listener of the show, this is a great example of content marketing. We have done like 270 episodes right now, all completely free, and what I believe like really valuable, and we get that feedback from people all the time. And we're helping you directly through these episodes, but also we're building an audience of people who eventually start to hire us as producers and mixers or as coaches at the selfrecordingband.com, where we work with artists, self-recording artists and producers, and help them make records that they'll be super proud of forever and happy to share with the world. And so a lot of the people that we work with come from this show. Anyway, I'm saying this is a little outside of what we usually do on this show. But since a big part of our audience are people who actually want to promote their music, I just thought it makes sense to cover this topic, right? And so what I've done today is, it's not the typical conversation that we have. We are doing an episode where we share a talk with you that we've done live on stage. Malcolm and I, my former co-host of this podcast, who's been doing this with me for years, we have been on stage last year in Hamburg at the Studio Szene event, and we've done a talk there on stage with Warren Huart from Produce Like a Pro, who I think most of you or many of you will know He has built one of the biggest YouTube channels in the industry. He's a very successful producer and engineer and musician, but also a content creator. And he does it because it helps his career in many ways. It's fulfilling. He's helping a ton of people. He's built an entirely new business off of that. And he's a really, really great resource, of course, to talk to about this topic. So we went on stage, did a talk together with him there live in front of a small audience. And it was called Content Creation for Musicians and Music Producers. And so, yeah, we're going to share with you this talk today. If you're watching this, if you're listening to this on a podcast app, this is also available as a YouTube video where you see us on stage with Warren. And if you are, enjoy or prefer listening to this, then keep listening. The value is all going to be there. Let us know if you have any thoughts on this, if these kinds of topics are at all interesting to you. We're going to keep it on recording again in the future, of course, but maybe every once in a while a topic like this is interesting to you. And between the three of us, we have quite a bit of expertise in terms of content marketing. Malcolm has built a couple of different things now, a couple of different YouTube channels and resources. I have built this resource and this whole platform and the podcast that has been doing really well. And then Warren has focused on YouTube. So between the three of us, we're covering a wide variety of things. Inside of our coaching program, by the way, if you're not in there yet, we also have workshops with people who are real good at social media, which is not something I have focused on a lot, but we have a content creation workshop there as well that focuses on posting on social media. But this workshop that we're going to share with you today is a general content marketing workshop, sort of. And you can apply this to whatever channel you pick and choose. And this is the one thing that I want to say before we finally get to the actual talk, is that whatever you do with the information you're about to get, I would recommend you pick one channel to start with. So one social media platform or YouTube or a podcast or whatever your format and channel is. Pick one and get really good at this and do it consistently for a long time. And then only then pivot to other things. That's the whole point and the whole reason why we have never really built a YouTube first kind of channel. That's why our channel is still at this time relatively small, because this is a podcast first. And we focused on podcasting and we grew the podcast. We also publish it on YouTube, but this is kind of not optimized for YouTube, right? So, and this is also the reason why we haven't built a huge social media following, again, because we focused on one thing and it has worked very well for us. If you prefer social media or YouTube, go all in there and don't do other things. And then only then pivot. This is the number one strategy that works for most people. Anyway, hope you enjoy this workshop with Warren Huart and Malcolm Owen-Flood. And thank you so much for coming back if you are a returning listener. Welcome if you are new to this. It's a weird episode to start with because we are typically talking about recording and helping people make better records from their jam spaces. But hey, since you found us, maybe you enjoy this, and then you can dive into the other 269 episodes. My name is Benedikt Hein. I'm a full-time mixing engineer. I've been doing that for like 15 years now. We mix hundreds of songs every single year here, and I've built this platform where we help people through our coaching program and our online courses. And so, glad to have you. Now enjoy the episode. Here is content creation for music producers and musicians with Malcolm Owen-Flood and Warren Huart.
What we're talking about today is content creation. Beards, obviously beards. And we also got an expert here in the audience, I think.
Oh, yeah, you see. Yeah, but that's Velcro. I saw him put it on earlier.
So content creation for musicians and producers is what we're talking about today. And I think this is a very good idea to talk about. And I'm very curious to hear your thoughts on this, because all of us here, we have different, we do different types of content. We have experience with this. We run a podcast. Warren obviously is one of the most successful, has one of the most successful YouTube channels in this industry. Almost.
I don't know who he's talking about.
I think like 800,000 subscribers almost at the moment.
Something like that,
yeah. So we chose the podcast format. Warren chose YouTube. We all do courses, and we are a book author as well. So various types of content. And so I'm curious, Warren, do you think, it's obviously helped us in many different ways, and it is very fulfilling because it helps a lot of people around the world when we do that. But do you think that today it is even necessary to get into some sort of content creation if you want to be a musician or have a career as a producer? Is that something you need to do you think?
Yes, it depends on, this is, the question really is it's a great question, but we have to decide how you frame the words content creation.
Yes, exactly.
Because obviously if you're all producers, engineers, musicians, combination thereof, a lot of you are in bands and also producing your own music and writing your own songs, as well as working with other artists or any of those kinds of combinations. So you are going to be doing content creation whether you like it or not. Because unless you have somebody who's willing to funnel large sums of cash into you to do it all for you, which is pretty much like nobody, unless they're signed to a major label, and even then you have to be, a certain genre, a certain niche, etc., for them to even think about it, then of course you are doing content creation. Whether it be, in an educational format or, more importantly, just to get yourself out there so people can see your studio, see and hear your music, get to know you. So content creation is just a necessary part of our lives. If you have a Facebook page anywhere and you're putting a photo of yourself up on holiday, you're already a content creator.
That's true. Yeah, it's very
I think
true.
it's really just an extension of that. And unfortunately, or fortunately, or just the reality is that's the world we live in now, People say to me, they ask me 100 different questions about how to get themselves out there, and I ask them the fundamental things like, do you have a website? And they'll be like, no, I don't. And then they'll give me a reason why they don't have a website and, why it's pointless. And then I'll say, do you have a Facebook page? And they'll be like, no. And it's just like, and then I'm like, how do you stand out anymore? And stand out is even by saying that little mini phrase, stand out is the difficulty now. It's very crowded in everything, but it is a necessity. We do need to be, accessible, findable. Now, I don't know, ask me some more questions, because
Yes.
I realize
I got one.
there's about 100 different directions I
Yes,
can go.
exactly. We structured this a little bit, so we got some
Good.
ideas.
Benny, can I get one in?
Yes, absolutely. Do it, please.
So I'm actually really curious because you have Produce Like a Pro, which is this amazing platform now. But I'm so curious how it started. Did you start that content creation with the intention of education, or was it to promote your career as this producer, mixer, audio engineer?
That's a good question. Well, we didn't monetize for the longest period of time. So there wasn't really, we didn't even have ads on the YouTube channel. Didn't have any kind of thing. So I think, that's a very interesting question, because when we started Produce Like a Pro, I was busy, like ridiculously busy making records. And we had come off of Aerosmith, we'd come off of Aerosmith was the album that we had just finished the year before.
Never heard of them.
Yeah, and it was great. So I had all these legacy artists hitting us up. I did Ace Frehley, I did, Blue Coupe, which was some of the guys from Alice Cooper's band with a couple of the guys from Blue Oyster Cult. And I was just getting all these legacy artists because I'd done Aerosmith. So if anybody, had made records in the 70s and wanted to do some new albums. Anyway, they were calling me up and I was doing records. And then we were doing tons of independent artists. And I think there was probably the idea that it would help. But it was my wife that said, do it because you're going to help other people. Because being who I am, rightly or wrongly, I get called and emailed and texted all the time. I can probably open up my phone now and read you 20 emails and texts of like, well, I've got an RME and I'm trying to patch in and that's always been that way, regardless of Produce Like a Pro. And I was really, really super lucky to have wonderful, I remember getting a text from Simon Phillips. Simon Phillips, one of the greatest drummers that ever lived. Yeah, I've got a problem with my Avid system. I'm trying to do my HD, blah, 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 blah. So I was always answering questions. Maybe I'm approachable. I don't know. Am I approachable? I don't know. Maybe people felt like that I was okay to ask. And when I have the time, I will listen to your demo. Problem is these days, I don't really have that much of a time, but people send me demos all the time, et cetera, et cetera. And, I think good human beings, we want to treat people the way we want to be treated. So when I have the opportunity, if somebody asks for some advice and time, I would always do it, because I would hope that if I was stuck sometime, I could call you up and go, what do I, and if you had time, you would tell me. So it was sort of a natural thing, but the monetization didn't come for a while. Yeah.
Yeah, no, that makes sense.
My wife just said, if you're going to do, why don't you just try doing this, on a bigger scale? And in some ways, it probably appealed to the brain of like, well, if I put the information out there online, that will actually, maybe people will call me a little less because now they'll be able to find it online anyway, you know. And little did I know it would sort of actually get the opposite. But
It's the exact reason we started our podcast.
That was the reason, yeah.
That's quite funny.
just put the information up there, and then I won't get called anymore.
Yeah, exactly.
If they ask the same question, we can just send them to that episode.
Yeah.
But I want to say, I love all of this. I want to say that I think people, it's important the why, like why you get into content creation. And I think what you just said, if the intention is to just help people and put stuff out into the world that, helps people, that eventually helps you, because there is like you said, people want to give back and all of that, but also you put so much value into the world. If that is the intention and you don't even think about what the end goal is, that's totally fine. And I think that's a good way to start. And then you can build an audience, and how you're gonna, or if you're gonna monetize that in any way, shape or form, you can make that decision later. I think that with an audience, like anything's possible, but without an audience, you can't really do anything. And so if you build an audience, and then some people do it because they want to promote their already existing services or their music. Some people do it because they want to start an education business. Some people do it because they want to monetize the content itself. But there's many different models. Some people combine all of them, but it all starts with actually starting to publish and building an audience, finding your voice and figuring out what people actually want to hear, because in the beginning, you won't even know probably what people want. I think that over time, I guess the people that watch your content, that comment and send you questions, I think they will tell you what they want, and then you can pivot and adjust. But so many people don't even get started because they overthink it before they make the first post or video, right?
Yeah, all that's true. I could just go ditto. Next question. But I think one thing that's super, super important is audience is great, but the size of the audience is actually nowhere near as important as actual proper engagement.
Very good point. Thank you for saying that, yeah.
And I think this is what a lot of people get lost on, because we'll do, like, I love these kinds of things. I mean, we were just chatting a second ago, like, we love Hamburg. We love Germany. We love Deutschland. It's great. We've been here multiple times this year. We went to Berlin. We absolutely love Berlin. That's actually top 2 cities in the world for me. And a big part of this is being able to do this, be able to be here and meet people and have great food and hang out. And it's all part of a lifestyle choice of like, this is what we want to do. We want to live this kind of life and travel and meet people and just, It's facilitated through proper relationships and engagement. The relationships part of this is the most important thing. And the cynical kind of nature of social media is where people get really caught up in numbers and things like that. Not that I'm saying you're saying this, because you weren't saying that.
Yeah.
But one of the things that, because there's been a massive proliferation post-COVID or during COVID of every person that's ever picked up a microphone and plugged it in now has a YouTube channel. We all know that, And somebody that's fresh out of college is now teaching, and that's fine. But they don't have the life experiences. They don't have the ability to give you advice on how to interact with artists and get great performances out of it, because they've never actually done that job. But they're giving you a little piece of something about how to use a plugin or how to plug this in or check the phase on that. All of that is absolutely fantastic, but it will be absolutely useless to you when it comes to building a career. There's so much more to it. Having being able to coax a great performance, being able to know when a performance is great. All of these things. So with the social media aspect, it's great that you can go online now. In fact, if you want to, go online, go to YouTube, go and find the top 10 videos in, audio education and do your version of them, and you'll build a bit of audience. That's pretty much how everybody starts now. They just go, okay, the number one most searched thing I will tell you now on YouTube is managing low end, mixing low end. I've personally done 8 videos on mixing low end. All of them have over 100,000 views, because it's the number one thing people have difficulty when it comes to mixing. Is getting a low end, because they're in a room and maybe their headphones or their room or whatever, and they just do not know when it sounds good. They're always looking for that advice. It's the number one question I get asked. Joe Carroll did a video for us a couple of weeks ago, and he's like, well, what should I do? I said, have you done your video on low end yet? So he did his video on low end, and it's been out about 2 weeks. It's already got 35,000 views, and it gets 1,000 a day, and then, give it a year, it'll be up to 100,000 views, like all the rest of it. But my point is like, that's good. That's fantastic. That's giving out information that people are asking about. But it is kind of a surface thing. If you want to build something real and meaningful in any way, shape, or form, you need to have proper engagement with people. And you need to answer questions. You need to be responsive to people. And you need to build proper relationships. This business is built on relationships.
Very true. Which is why we are all here and doing this today.
Yeah, but you can have a channel with 1,000 subscribers.
Yeah.
And I've seen channels with 1, 2, 3, 4,000 subscribers. Christian's a great example. Christian Kohler, he's got a very successful channel. We work together. He's got about 65,000 subscribers, which is great. But his videos get between 10 to 20,000 views every single time, which means he's getting 20 to 40% engagement rate on a video. Yeah. Nobody gets that. You go to the mega channels of the 10 million, that would mean every time they put out a video, they get 4 to 6 million views. It just isn't happening. You know what I mean? It's so what they has there is he has a real business, a proper business. And yet there's people 10 times the size that will make less money than him and not be as successful. It's because he's got a really engaged audience, because you can scratch the surface and it's not just somebody who's really good on camera and did some really fast, great editing and wrote an amazing script. It's actually, you scratch the surface oh no, he's actually made a record I've heard of and I like the sound of it, as opposed to just being a content creator. So I think, getting right back to the beginning is there has to be substance there to if you want to, create content, make sure it's built on substance. It's a tough business at the moment for people starting out, because you are competing with people that understand marketing more than they understand the job they're doing. So if you can actually market some real talent and show what you're actually doing, you should win in a much bigger way.
Yeah, and I love that, because it is encouraging, and it means that you can do it even if you don't have these huge numbers right away, because it will take time. And if you look at us, I've had a successful studio business already without content, but that's just work. But then when we started the self-recording band, the second one, we've built another 6-figure full-time business on an audience of a couple of thousand people listen to the podcast. Our YouTube doesn't even have 1,000 subscribers because we never focused on YouTube. My Instagram has 1,500 people or so. All we do is the podcast because that is what I'm naturally good at, and that's what we chose. And the audience is small, but the engagement is big, and so yeah. And this is an example. And all I'm saying is here, I don't know, you don't have to play all the things. I never did much social media like Instagram or whatever. I never really took YouTube seriously, although I will do that in the near future. But podcast was my thing. And if maybe Instagram is your thing or YouTube is your thing, but pick one and don't think you have to have huge numbers on all the channels in order to be able to build a business. That's just not true. The other thing is, and what I love about what you said, is the whole skill thing and building it on substance, because many people tell me they don't start with content because they are insecure. There's the imposter syndrome that we all deal with to a degree when we put out content. There's fear of judgment, fear of rejection from people. But I think a lot of people are insecure because they have a feeling that what they want to talk about is maybe not what they're really good at, and instead they could just talk about things they've already actually done. Because if you have proof that you've already done it, you will feel much more confident talking about that. And if you've just started out, that's fine. There will still be a person who's even newer to it than you who can learn from you. And if you just started out and you've figured out the first thing and you're totally excited about this, share that. You don't have to know all the things yet. And there's so many people that pick up stuff from guys like Warren or somebody else who's really experienced, and they think they have to teach the same things instead of just talking about what they're actually doing every day, just documenting what they're doing and taking people on that journey with you. That is going to help you also be more confident, because you're not pretending to be someone that you're not at the moment.
That brings up a really good point. And you also brought up the same point, Warren, in that if you have that credibility and you're getting that type of engagement, I think it implies that you're helping the type of people that you want to attract. So if you are watching a Produce Like a Pro video, or you are listening to the Self-Recording Band podcast, you probably are trying to learn more recording skills, right? But if you are a producer and you are making educational content, are you attracting bands that want to work with you? Maybe not, right? Maybe you actually need to be making content that attracts that type of person, right? So maybe that is, you gave me a great example earlier. It could be a list of venues right? You can create a lead magnet that is literally contact info for a tour, like reach out to these bands. Now you have created a piece of content that actually attracts the type of people you're trying to gather. Because an audience is great and all, but really you're trying to develop an audience to help you do something. So are you trying to create an audience so you can be an educator, which is, we love it. We really love it. It's super fun. But are you trying to create an audience so you can be a music producer or somebody that just gets sent tracks to mix, right? Like those are very different conversations. And I think it's worth thinking about that before you get started. Well, always get started. You can always pivot. But I hope that makes sense, right? You see where I'm going with that?
Yeah, making content for musicians instead of making content for your peers. If your goal is to get more musicians to hire you, maybe you shouldn't make content that all the engineers love. Maybe you should make stuff that musicians love, right? Depending on like who you want your audience to be. Would you agree with that, or?
Yeah, some of the stuff flying around my head. So yeah. I think I'm blessed that when I do content, I've noticed this the last few years. Actually, last time we were here at Studio Zana, I did a talk with Jason Joshua.
Yeah,
we watched
AI talk.
Yeah, and we started off with AI and went on 55 different tangents.
He didn't really want to talk about AI.
Yeah, I know. Everybody's like, you didn't talk about AI. But he's a total sweetheart, and he's a genuine and obviously incredibly talented. And he said to me, he goes, yeah, Warren, I was having a real hard time struggling mixing the low end on this song, blah, 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 blah. And then I went on and I looked up and I saw one of your videos, and I was reminded of how to simplify the approach. And because he, like all of us, like every human being, was trying the 55 different fancy low-end mixing plugins, and then realized there's some really basic stuff that would get him there much quicker. And he's like, oh yeah, I watched one of your videos and it reminded me of the basic techniques that are going to help do this, and boom, I did it. And I have found now that I've got a massive amount of people that are my peers that watch. What's happening at the moment online is a lot of the high engagement videos has got really very little to do with education anymore, and more to do with ranting. It's because you get more engagement because people confuse anger and negativity with quote unquote honesty. So what they do is if you go, oh, I've got that Gibson guitar, I won't stay in tune, it's awful, oh my God, and everybody's like, yeah, he's honest. But what it does is it gets a lot of audience, a lot of people that want to be angry and all this kind of stuff. But you talk to those guys, and they're usually always guys, when you talk to those guys about it, they're not really making any income or growing a really engaged audience based on any skill set. They're just, it's entertainment. It is lots of people getting together and being angry together about something. So if you want something, but that gets you big numbers. So we all know the channels, and it's all, God bless them all, they'll have those huge numbers. But when it comes to the actual content that they're trying to get out of the educational stuff, it doesn't really connect with the audience because people don't associate them with actually learning anything of any value. They just go there to be like, yeah, my life sucks, it's because of Gibson. You know what I mean? It's like, because they make more money than me, or something like that. It's not anything to do with, actual real stuff that's important, that's actually going to help people.
Real value, right?
Yeah, value's the word, yeah. And so that's the thing, is it's easy to get caught up in the high numbers. To justify our numbers, to understand. So yes, we have nearly 800,000 subscribers. The reason why we have a lot of subscribers is because we're not genre specific. Christian Kohler is a metal producer. He has 65,000 people subscribing to him, which is very successful. But he doesn't do classic rock, he doesn't do pop, he doesn't do country, he doesn't do folk, he doesn't do orchestration, he doesn't do jazz. We do all of that. We've even have hip hop on there. So we get pieces of lots of different audiences all coming together. We're not one genre specific thing. So if you started something to help bring yourself front and center of punk or metal or folk or whatever your genre is, you're not worrying about getting that absolutely enormous audience. You just want to make sure that the people that follow you actually care about the things that you care about. You connect with them. And I think this is a really important thing. And if it's about selling your services, you need to be showcasing what you do. So have a YouTube channel if you're recording, a folk artist or whatever. Make sure that you are showing the techniques and the music that you have recorded in that genre. And yes, you might get people on an educational basis that will ask you questions and all this kind of stuff, but you're also going to obviously showcase the fact that you are a producer, engineer, mixer, songwriter, instrumentalist in that genre.
Yeah.
So
good point.
it's all back to, it's not about how big the numbers are. It's all about the real engagement and whether you're actually talking to people. We were at Alicia. We said to Alicia, they're over there, we're going to mention them. So we were at Alicia yesterday, or Alicia. We were with them yesterday. And I said, if we do a video with them and it gets 10,000 views, that's a success, because the only people that are watching that video are people that are interested in what they're talking about. Mm-hmm. And if I could say to you, you know, Frank, everybody called Frank, I'm making up a name. Frank, you are a folk engineer, producer guy. And I'm going to guarantee that 10,000 people that like folk music are going to watch your video. You'd be like, show me more, give me more. So you see what I mean? It's not about the big number. It's about getting to the people you want to communicate to. So it's okay to be a boutique. Yeah. Be a boutique. If you're the guy or the girl or whatever is in a specific genre or specific techniques or whatever, showcase that. Because the good, wonderful thing about the lovely interwebs, I like saying that because that was the old President Bush thing, the interwebs, about the internet is the fact that, you know, you can be a Hawaiian Gothic death metal rapper.
I would love to see that.
Yeah, you could be
that
specific. And I guarantee that there are 10,000 of the 9 billion people on this planet. There's another 10,000 people in the world that like that. That little niche of a niche of a niche and a niche and a niche. That's why the internet is good. It's okay to be a boutique.
Yeah. Great point.
Yeah,
and you just want to find your other souls that love the things that you love. So don't look at those big numbers and go, oh, I need to be Warren or I need to be Christian, or just look at it from a perspective of like, knuckle down on what you do and who you are, and showcase that, which is what you're saying. Showcase who you are, let people find you, you know, and you will do something successful out of it.
Yeah.
Look at guitar makers. I mean, you know, all joking aside about Gibson, there are so many boutique guitar builders now that can probably build, I don't know, 3 or 4 guitars a month for $5,000 to $10,000. And they've got a business because of the interwebs, because of the internet. They're able to connect to those people that love that hand-built guitar. You know, it's why there's so many boutique microphone companies, because there is actually a business model in there, because you might have, maybe you sell 50 of these things a year, but it's you and an assistant, or you and an assistant and your accountant. You know what I mean? This is the beauty of it and why it's worth embracing. Not because you're trying to build this massive multi-million-dollar empire, but just because you're going to find like-minded people like yourself, and they do exist. The Hawaiian Gothic
rapper.
Yeah, that's so good. And that's what kept us going when we started the podcast, for example. When I looked at my first podcast before this one, when I looked at the numbers and I saw I got like 200 downloads a week or something, I was like, well, if I could be speaking to a room of 200 people every week, that would be pretty sick. That would be really cool. And if you look at it that way, like being able to have your voice in the ears of like 200 or 300 people every week is pretty powerful. And they walk around with you, listening to you. They're going to watch your YouTube videos while they're doing whatever. Like they build a relationship with you. After a while, like people say that to us all the time. They feel like they know us. Like they're strangers, of course, but if you listen to someone over and over, you feel like you know that person. That's a very deep relationship at some point that is very powerful, even if it's just a few people. And I think we cannot end this without talking about the consistency bit a little bit, because I think with content, what's really important is consistency. And I would say make it easy for yourself in the beginning. Like don't try to do everything everywhere, but do something that you can actually commit to and then build over time, because it's much better to just post a simple thing once a week and get into a rhythm. And then, you know, instead of trying, I'm going to do 4 reels a day and 3 YouTube videos and a podcast, you're just going to not follow through with that. So maybe just, I don't know if you'd agree with that, but consistency is pretty important when it comes to content. And it's not like these little sprints here and there. It's like a consistent marathon of putting the things out, getting better over time and getting the feedback from the people who actually listen to you.
Yeah, I agree. When we first started, we did 3 videos a week, which was probably a lot to start with.
That's a lot.
But we had an assistant called Connor, and he would arrive at 9 a.m. 3 times a week, and between 9 and 11, I'd film a video. And the pressures were different in those days, because I would just open up a session and I would talk about how I did a mix. and maybe it was a low end thing, maybe it was a panning thing, maybe it was this, that, and the other, or specific plugins I liked, and just put out video content like that with no real game plan other than just to engage with people and show them what we did. And it wasn't revolutionary, but it did do really well, and we got a lot of great engagement. But like anything, when you get into the YouTube world in particular, we have engagement on every platform, but YouTube world, you're playing algorithm games and stuff like that. So you just have to look past it. You have to look past it and just do what's right and actually supportive of what you do, and you'll do well. If you get too caught up in that, you will end up kind of shooting yourself in the foot, and you'll end up making a Why Gibson Suck video, and you'll have a really successul video, and maybe it'll make you $2,000 that month in advertising revenue. So you spend the rest of your life trying to make, you've got to be careful. You've got to make sure that your message is actually something that you can align with, that supports what you do. And yes, consistent content is good. The great thing is if you do a compelling video, it's about 45 minutes long, you can probably create 4 or 5 shorts from that, some reels from that. You can keep stuff going. And once you start getting, 1 or 2 videos a week over a year or two, you've got a fountain of content that you could, regurgitate is a negative word, but it's not. It's like you can come in there and take little moments that really mean something and, edit them together, because people's attention spans, we know now, is down to 6 seconds, so you could pretty much create something that's got the point of what you were trying to make in your 20-minute video in a 1-minute reel or short, and off you go. Although I will say YouTube just lengthened their shorts to 3 minutes.
That's true, yeah.
Game changer.
I want to ask you a question about your channel specifically, because when you started, I think 10 years ago, right? About 10?
Just hit 10 years, yeah. We forgot to do any kind of celebration on it, so maybe we should.
Sounds like an idea.
I think we were just all over the place. I can't remember what country or plane we were on at the time. I was like, 10 years.
Yeah. So I remember watching you from the very beginning, and the first couple, and maybe you have done more than that in the beginning even, but the videos that I've watched was most of the time you visiting great engineers at their studios, talking to them.
Yeah, we still do a lot of that, yeah.
But back then, that was pretty much all I watched, and it was so fascinating, so interesting, these conversations you had with these people. And what I want to ask is, or what I want to tell you is, before I discovered your channel, I didn't know about you as a producer or engineer. I knew the records, but I didn't know about you personally. Yeah. And then I saw that, and then I was like, immediately, before doing any research, I immediately saw you as an expert and somebody who knows what he's doing and who knows his stuff, because first of all, what you said made sense, and it was a way it was just nice to watch and very helpful. But also, I associated you automatically with all these people that you had conversations with, because I could tell you know these people, you are obviously connected in the industry, you must be someone, that immediately positioned you in my mind. Yeah, that immediately positioned you as someone where I looked up to and that I wanted to learn from, and which is really interesting.
I paid him beforehand.
No, but I think
it's quite cheap, 20 euros if you
can do that. No, but it's really interesting to me that there are some people that where the relationship starts just because they talk about interesting stuff in a cool way with interesting people, and I immediately see them as experts. Whereas there's others who might also have huge audiences, where I'm a little skeptical. I don't really trust them. That was not the case in your case.
No, I appreciate that, but I think that goes back to how the audience is built.
Yeah.
A lot of people have large channels, but they're built off of the this sucks kind of thing, and which is fine. They built an audience like that. Their ad revenue might be like that, and and companies are a little scared of them, and when they give a product a review, and are you going to trash my product because it will get you more views, or are you going to review it properly? They just don't know.
Yeah. And my questions in there, it would be what was, Malcolm asked it in the beginning about the intention, but with these videos, what was the intention there? What is it just because you enjoyed having these conversations and wanted to document it? Or was it that you wanted to build relationships with these people, knowing that you maybe gonna do courses? Or was there how did you come up with the idea of because that at the time to me was kind of, I haven't seen that before. How did you come up with the idea that you were I'm gonna be traveling to all these studios and then sit down with them, interview them, and post it on YouTube?
You hit it right at the beginning, though. 99% of the first couple of hundred videos we did like that were just people we knew.
Yeah.
I'd done an Aerosmith record I was saying earlier. Neil Avron was mixed the first half of the record while I was still finishing tracking it. When I finished tracking, I mixed the second half of the record. So let's go and interview Neil Avron. In fact, he actually came over to our studio to do that. Jack Douglas, I had done several albums with him at that point. So it's like, interview Jack Douglas. He's a family friend. He's Uncle Jack to the kids, That's what it was. Bob Clearmountain was a hero of mine. I think anybody with a pulse that likes music knows that Bob Clearmountain's probably the best mixer that ever lived, and very humble and very, very talented. And so that was a little bit more of a journey to get to know him. But generally speaking, most of the ones we worked with were people that we had known.
Yeah, and you could tell from the videos, like you could tell that connection is real, which made it believable, which made it automatically, like I automatically trusted you, and because of those conversations. And then,
I think we're blessed. I got an email yesterday from a blind producer, and they had done our home studio marketing course, but it didn't connect with them because it wasn't really designed in a way that should be done for blind people. So I just wrote to them and said, I will give you all the money back. And he's like, I don't want the money back. I just want help. So now it's just like, well, okay, let's listen to your music. Are they a talented producer, engineer, and mixer? Yeah, again, thrown off the stage here. Mark's like, get off the stage. I got important people to come up here, not you idiots. So that to me is a more powerful thing, I love it. Getting an email like that says, it's not about the money. I need help. How can, I don't know. To me, there are things that make it all worthwhile. Look, meeting and talking to you afterwards, during, before, whatever, is all really important. When people ask me questions and they've got, I'm going to be, we went to New York for AES last week.
Yeah.
Last week? I don't know who I am. It was last week. Yeah, we were in New York last week for AES. And what I love about New York is it's incredibly diverse musically. When we do NAMM, it's great, but it's usually the same upper middle class white audience. I'll just be honest. And it's okay. I love it. I love NAMM. It's amazing. But when we went to New York, it's a lot more edgy and gritty, and we had tons of African-American hip-hop and, producers coming up. And it's like, I love that. I love that we're actually speaking to more than one person, one genre, one anything. And that's what makes this worth doing for me, is that we get to go to Germany. We get to be in Deutschland, we get to meet you, we get to go to New York and meet a whole different demographic, and then go to LA and do this and blah, blah, blah. And it makes it so rewarding. So if you're going to do this and you're going to create your own content in your niche boutique field, it's going to open so many doors for you. If you are the Hawaiian Gothic rapper, death metal guy, you're going to find your other Hawaiian Gothic death metal rapping artists.
You think there's
and
more
you're
than
going to communicate. That's my point, though. It's a beautiful opportunity, if nothing else, to connect with people that are like-minded as you. Because at the end of the day, we create and produce like a pro. I always say this, and I'll wrap up with this: to have a playground that we could all play. When I was a kid, I don't know about you guys, but when I was a kid, I had like one or two close friends, and we were obsessive about music, and that was it. I wasn't, I was okay at a couple of sports that you guys wouldn't understand, like cricket and rugby, maybe rugby, but yeah, exactly. But I wasn't like, sporty guy. I wasn't like, I was quite shy, believe it or not, as much as I talk now. I was quite shy and insular and bookish and all this kind of stuff, and just loved music. So to creating Produce Like a Pro is like having our own playground. Suddenly all these other thousands of people all over the world, like us, all get together and hang out and talk about things, We weren't like, I don't know, maybe you guys were, but I was not Mr. Popular at school, I was just, that guy, that probably the same as you. And that's what's so great about this. And it's just, if I could leave you with one thing, it's just get who you are, be a boutique, and share what you're passionate about. And that's the great thing about the wonderful internet, is that you can connect and find those people all over the world that are like you. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Warren.
Thank you.
This was
Sorry,
super
Mark.
helpful for people, I think.
Thank you for coming to watch, and thank you so much, Warren.